from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased. Joining me from Italy, myTU co-founder, Tomas Navickas. Thomas, thank you very much for being here with me today. I really, appreciate you give me time, especially the weekend is coming and people want to chill out. But, again, it's great to have you here with me. As I was telling you before I start recording with you, is I usually keep it to my guests to give us a little bit more about, their journey, how you come up to here, and then we can start discussion from there. We're gonna talk a lot about important topics today, of course about the story of my two, and we're gonna talk about AI, fraud, cloud, and APIs, and everything in between. So the floor is yours, Thomas.
Thank you, Mehmet. Thank you for having me. It's a beautiful day, not just a Friday. It's just nice sunny day and everything. And I'm very excited to be talking here. Speaking about myself, how I come to be at this situation where I'm today, I actually started very, very early. I was into the computers and coding and everything when I was like a 5 or 6 year old. Given the fact that I'm already 45, that makes a lot of time, right? So I was building for so long so that I can't even remember how this even happened, everything. But during this journey, I was in various situations, like I was building web pages, building first email services at similar time frames when Google arrived and everything. So it all started at ancient ages and continued with every iteration. It was bigger and more complicated project. And also because I had like an interest not only in development or engineering, but also in the process as it is and in, let's say, achieving goals. This allowed for me to get, let's say, training and required education and experience to become someone like a leader, like a CTO in this situation. And today it's even a co-founder. Since my last endeavor 5-6 years ago, I started with my partner a very complicated business. It's a financial institution which is just another huge beast. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about this beast, Thomas, because you look like you're doing great things there. So of course, I do my research and I try as much as I can, to grab information. So myTU is known for running kind of an entire bank on less than 1,000 euro per month in cloud cost, right? Like this is one of the things that I found out.
Yeah, that is true.
How did you architect the system to achieve that kind of efficiency? Because you know what? I see a lot of posts recently, and I think there's a complete practice now. It's called FinOps. So for people to optimize their cloud spendings. So how did you manage this? How did you architect that?
Excellent question. It's just a super question. It boils down to many things. It's part of my history and legacy where I came from. I was building software on the kilobytes of data. So I was actually experiencing building things from scratch and building them in a very efficient way so that things use as little resources as possible and as needed. But that's not only the only thing. It's just my experience which allowed me to design something like that, which we talk in a few words now. The other thing is that when we actually were founding the company, right, there was already big names, if I may mention, like Revolut, N26 and others, and they already invested a lot in the marketing. It's really impossible to compete on that level if you don't have a billion, let's say, behind you. and we didn't have. So we kind of had to invent something that's more like an unfair advantage. And here we found that efficiency is something that you cannot copy. And if you cannot copy, this is essentially the unfair advantage that you can have, because you can copy designs, you can copy app styles, functions, and features. And nowadays it's even easier than ever. And because of that, we decided that, okay, so let's bank on the efficiency, literally, and do everything efficiently, the processes, the people, and the software. So how I build it, the design is very specific. We chose the cloud. It's Google Cloud, actually. We're fully Google Cloud native. And we use very basic infrastructure. I mean, we don't build on things that are deprecated or changing a lot and that kind of thing, because you would have to maintain and do changes, too many changes. It would be a complication just to have something like that. So we build on the as basic things as possible. And it's true that it was under 1,000. It's not anymore. Actually, we are probably having more more costs. It's more about 2,000 now, if you think about it. But it's because we also use a lot of AI in many of our processes, from software building to the actual use in the software inside of it. So we built very specifically on a very basic tool with a very, very specific design, just because we actually thought that we have to do it. There is no other way for us to exist in the market. And it was actually a good choice, because after that, COVID came, then the war and other things. And, it's not easy to stay afloat. And having a small burn, not only on the infrastructure side, but also on people, helped to survive those times. And then we are arriving now here where we're actually having revenue, and we are seeing like eyeing already break-even situations and getting profits and everything. This is fun part now.
It's indeed fun, and it's fantastic. Congratulations on this. It's an achievement, in my opinion. Having such cost efficient for a complex use
Thank
case.
you.
It's a great achievement. Now, you mentioned about AI and a couple of things, and also I'm sure you have done some optimization when it comes to support as well. So because I believe you're supporting close to maybe more of 500,000 clients. So how also were you able to streamline and optimize the support part from technology perspective, of course, that allowed you to scale without hiring more people and having all these multi layers of support that usually we see within technology companies?
Yeah, Mehmet, you asking very good questions. Like
Thank you.
a nail. The thing is, would you believe that our support currently is the only thing that does not have really AI inside of it? It's
Wow.
probably the last element that we changed, that we're gonna change, but at the moment it does not have. And but I can still answer your question: how can we support that many users with such little resources? The answer is simple. To be efficient, we also understood that our maintenance has to be as minimal as possible. That means that we're trying to build the software with as little problems as possible, and not, just like a automated testing that thing does not crash or something. It needs to be clear, convenient, user-friendly, when users wouldn't have too many questions or too many things to figure out or something like that. We actually employ things that even Mario games employed. Like people have to go through some steps to explore things, to find new things, and then they learn about it naturally and use that. So building the product in a very specific way, because 5-6 years ago, AI wasn't on this level. We wouldn't be able to use AI to do support. That's why we built in different kind of application development style, if you wish. And this allowed us to have small support for quite complicated and large user base. Nowadays, actually, you're absolutely right. Support is like a first thing that you can augment with AI, because AI can have tools, access to data, it can verify, it can be 24/7 available, and we will definitely do this. I think most likely next year beginning we'll focus on that as well to optimize that part. But it's not like we have a huge load at the moment because of the strategy how we build it.
Great. Now, you are in a highly regulated, you know, industry, right? So, and one of the things, especially when anything related to finance, is fraud, right? And then we hear horrible stories about fraud. And I've seen like you've written something related to fraud prevention and the role of AI in the whole thing. So let me start from AI because it's top of mind of everyone. So how AI is changing the way I would say banks detects respond to fraud compared like maybe to previous traditional methods.
Mhm. Yeah, again, it's very similar story to support, but here we started using AI and automation way, way much earlier. The thing is that fraud prevention does not happen with, let's say, just detecting or having some special tools. It's also about designing the experience. For example, if users don't have logins and passwords that they can forget, that's a thing that will or lose, or if there is no web access with a login or password or something like that, which can be phished from them, they could leak something like that. So account takeover fraud types are almost non-existing with our solutions. It's because it's practically impossible or too difficult to execute, and that's why simply nobody takes time to do it, because fraudsters also are businessmen, considering that they spend time where they can earn on it. If it's too much hassle, if it's too complicated, they simply don't do it. That's one thing. Another thing, yeah, so once we started doing, let's say, more transactions, the fraud comes from different sources, not just like, let's say, third parties, but also from within inside, from our customers. Also, customers might be frauded by, let's say, fake merchants and similar kind of things. So we built in AI detection, like literally first rules, then AI. AI is more flexible because you don't have to be too much specific about conditions that need to stop this operation. For example, a customer receives a payment. Let's say our customer receives a payment and suddenly he wants to make that payment, transfer the money somewhere else, maybe to his own accounts. And there could be like, red flags, let's say false name usage or vague reference messages or something like that. We could stop this transaction because we think that, okay, this, our customer could potentially be fraudster, that he is frauding someone with a fake sales that he is not actually doing, and then sending money away. And making specific rules for this works to extent, but they also are well organized. They share this information between each other. They have groups, closed groups, forums where they share what kind of provider has what kind of, let's say, thresholds for what, and they can pass that information, split transactions and everything. Having AI is a very different story because AI does not have strict rules. You do not make like a program, do this if it's that. You make like a guidance, and then the LLM decides based on the guidance and the knowledge that it has, and maybe some other knowledge that we add. And with the tools, if it needs to read some other additional information, it may make a decision to pass or stop this transaction. And this gets way, way harder to, let's say, fake. Another thing, let's say a transaction is stopped and we ask questions. AI can prepare questions in advance. That's one thing. Another thing is if the client responds, it can validate authenticity of the data it provided in a way that humans cannot. So it really changes how fraud is handled. And it's where we actually have some pain because we catch a lot. Yeah. And when the fraudster is catched, when you catch him, he's not too much happy. He goes and, writes bad things about you on the many platforms as he can and so on. So that's another
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's another thing. Just a small, a small thing about what you mentioned. I had a colleague. Who I'm still friend with him. So exactly, he used to tell. We were selling something related to cybersecurity, right? So he was telling them like the bad actors are people like us. They have bills to pay. They send their kids to schools, and they have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like, they have to be like also creative in finding new ways. So absolutely, and this is why also we see them. They are always leveraging the new technologies also as well. Now,
Mhm.
uh, we we talked about AI and what it, how to implement it and how you did it yourself. But do you see it to to be playing role more in proactive prevention or predictive one, which is mean like proactive, before or
Very
after, like,
interesting. Yeah, that's a
right,
very interesting question. I think that since AI and LLMs in general, they are not sentient beings and they do not have constant input like we do. We have constant stream of information going into
right.
us, and that's why we operate constantly, unless we're sleeping. And even then, we still operate at some level. So AI does not do this yet, and you have to feed it information. So I would say it's reactive, not proactive, but it reacts on the events that are happening like now. And given the time frames that we are allowed to let's say spend on some things, we can actually do quite a lot and make decisions in real time, so that user experience is not too bad in terms of how quickly payment goes through.
I want to go back a little bit to the cloud story, but this time not about the cost efficiency, rather about, maybe to inspire uh, uh, banks to do something. So we know like traditional banks, they struggled and maybe they're still struggling with cloud migration. So what's the edge you've seen building, digital bank cloud first versus trying to retrofit, a legacy system, probably running on, because at some stage I was, I didn't manage banking systems, but I was talking to people in banking and, like these monsters and beasts that we call them mainframes and all the complex system on top of that.
Yeah, they still use that actually. Well, another excellent question. I see you are prepared. So the thing is that for banks, it's a no-win game actually, because they have such a big systems. You cannot just take it as it is and transfer it to the cloud. It will not work for many different reasons, starting from security to the governance, to the scales, to the data amount, to everything. It's a very, very complicated thing. And there will be no even benefits of having this in the cloud, apart that, okay, you're free from the hardware that you used to have, but you still have to maintain everything, have a lot of administrators, network security, DevOps, NetOps, a lot of things. And it's a very difficult game for them. They try to mimic this by creating, let's say, user interactions edge, for example, of the mobile apps, web apps, in a different way. And they use at the backend, let's say, replicated data, not even directly from their systems as it is, but replicated data from some middleware, which has a replica of everything from the core and so on. It's so complicated. Nobody really knows everything inside of the bank, how it works. And therefore, it's really impossible to transfer it or even rewrite it. The only way to do it is actually a clean state. Some banks actually decided to do this. They did a spin-off, let's say, or either buy a fintech or create of their own and do everything digitally, ground up, new team, no new people, everything just separated. Again, because they have a legacy of years and years, decades, and possibly even more. No one knows everything that's happening inside.
Just a question that just came to my mind, Thomas, like related to the architecture of a digital bank. Do you think, like, if the cloud, wasn't there, would how hard do you think it would be to come up with the digital banking model and of course, the new modern
Okay.
banking?
Okay, this is still possible. So the thing that cloud gives me, which I wouldn't have if the cloud were not there. So cloud gives me ability to use some, let's say, managed services, right? So I don't have to have network specialists. I don't have to have workstation service specialists who are patching everything and so on. I get a basic platform as a service, let's say. And if I were to build it everything of my own, I would have a higher capital investment needed. I have to buy everything. I need to buy not one, but multiple sets. I need to have several sites because of the resiliency and everything. And I would have to have personnel here and there and further. The efficiency levels that we have are simply not possible. and it would mean that the cost upfront is way, way higher. I wouldn't be able to have the startup I have now.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, the speed of you know bringing things from maybe test and dev to production as well. Having this flexibility of completely replicating, and this is why this brings me to the next question. Because you mentioned about security measures, we talked a little bit more about the fraud, and actually you have to do it whether you are a normal bank or like a digital bank. But when it comes to cloud still, there are some question marks, especially in the banking sector, about sometimes data resiliency. Like I know like you're based in the EU, so probably Google Cloud is in Europe zone, I mean in region. So you don't have this problem and all your customers are from Europe. But data, sovereignty also sometimes, and security, right? So is it a myth, you think, that the banks still are believing that the cloud isn't secure as the data center, and the measures that we do for our on-premise workload, we cannot get it in the cloud? Of course, I'm sure they know about all the optimization you mentioned and the speed you can bring things up, but majority of time when I speak to people who are still kind of in traditional banking from technology perspective, like these are the first two things that comes. Of course, they mention other things also as well, but mainly related to data security, privacy, which related to how cloud operates, right? So
Yep.
is this a myth or no? Like actually not true.
Oh man, this is a huge question. To answer what I believe, I think
Sure.
this is a myth. If I didn't think that it is a myth, I would probably not use the cloud services here. So in general, it is a myth, but I don't believe that others, let's say CTOs or even let's say groups or departments in the banks actually believe that it is insecure or something like that. I think they understand the limitation, what they can or cannot do, and they try to move as many things as they can for convenience to the clouds. But they sometimes have, let's say, extended clouds, like the same cloud infrastructure with a managed service, but on their premises and their hardware.
Mhm.
It's possible to buy that kind of services. And what is true is actually that policies that banks have is very restrictive on what IT can actually do. And the policy will not be changed, in a day or a year, or possibly even in a decade. There needs to be some huge reason for this. That's why they have everything they need in-house. They need to have complete control on the data, on their business and their data. It's billions upon billions we're talking about, and they don't trust anyone else to have it, since they were not built originally in the, let's say, public service where you have, let's say, solved this data control thing when you have multiple copies, real-time log shipping, and you have replicated data like on application level if needed in real time, and you control it on a different entity, and that's how you manage your risk and dependency on your service provider. Because if you're a cloud, if you bank in the cloud and the cloud suddenly decides that, okay, we need to throw you out, there is nothing else. There is literally nothing you can do to stop them. You have to have your data somewhere, and they don't believe that they can solve it in many cases, or the policies do not allow them. That's why they will not also migrate to cloud completely. So it's not trust. I think policies is the problem here. Better for us.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for you, definitely. Like I always tell people like the biggest opportunity, regardless of the vertical, is if someone can do exactly the scenario you mentioned. Like of course this will not happen, but let's say one of the cloud providers decided like, okay, sorry guys, I'm not supporting your region anymore. I have to shut down the data center. So I always tell people like the one who comes up with a way that you can migrate seamlessly workloads across different clouds, that would be a great thing to do, really, because especially for the people who are still maybe even on-prem, like they tell me, usually, they used to tell me, is that if they find a fast way to bring workloads from the cloud to on-premise, maybe they would do it. But they
Hmm.
feel that
Yeah,
cloud providers, they blame, and sometimes I don't disagree much with them, but also like cloud providers, and which is their right, of course, if I sit on their side, they try to do what's called vendor lock-in, right? So you are you are relying completely on that ecosystem, and it's very hard for you to leave it. And some people who are like kind of they want to have the control in their hands. They say, hey, listen, like I don't want to be like 100% tied to you. It's just
true.
like food for thought, right?
Yeah, it's all true that you say. The thing is that if your system uses a lot of different cloud services from single provider, you are inherently dependent on that cloud provider because moving anything will be hard. The more different services you take, the harder it is. That's why we build it as simple as possible to be agile if needed, to move from one cloud to another cloud on premises if needed. That being said, cloud providers also understand this. That's why they have, let's say, products tailored for that kind of use cases. For example, it's not a Google advertisement, but I've been there, I talked to them. They have a product. You can buy hardware, which literally has parity level on functionality of cloud service. You get on premises, Google Cloud, but on premises.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah,
everything
yeah.
just works the same way. So all the tooling and everything, and you have the hardware and the software running in your environment. So that's possible. It's very expensive, but that's possible. Another interesting thing that I saw, actually, we haven't even touched AI a lot in this conversation yet, but I know that bigger banks have policies that prevent them from using public AIs, and probably
Right.
for good reason, because it's a question of education. If your employees will post somewhere where, let's say, some letter or some information or something will be logged and then used in training data or something like that, it can happen. That's why they block everything, because they have a lot of people working there and not everybody is well educated on what you can do or cannot do. And they provide their own internal services, including LLMs. And those LLMs are allowed to access, let's say, private data in the even customer data, and those are similar services to what you could get from public. It's not like you cannot have safe and secure public services. It's also possible. It's
Hmm.
not really a complication. But they decided to build everything of their own in-house because that's what they understand and control. Again, question of control and trust.
Yeah, it is the control and the trust. And my point, and I take it maybe from cybersecurity perspective more, because I tell them, like, guys, like if someone can get into your systems in the cloud, so because it's not because of the cloud, because of you. I'm talking about in
Yeah,
general,
most
of course.
likely. Yeah, all true.
Yeah,
Very true.
yeah. So you had problem with your identity security. I don't know, like maybe you have some misconfigurations, which can happen on premise. So it's not the cloud, of course. So 100% on this point. Now, one of the things also you're driving innovation in, as per my research, is um, B2B payment through APIs, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and APIs, are reshaping, especially in the fintech, are reshaping the way businesses handle payments. So, tell me more about it. Like how you're leveraging this, what kind of innovation you're doing.
Okay, so we actually do have sort of innovation in API levels. Uh, actually, a year ago, we didn't have even a product for businesses over APIs because I kind of thought that this is well served already on the market and there's no need for something because, well, you can get it from everyone. But as it turns out, I was wrong. It appears that a lot of service providers, specifically banks and even digital banks, like modern banks, have problems with APIs. And some of them are from the performance level. For example, if it's API served by the big bank, they may have problems with the queues. They stop to process payments on certain days or hours. And for businesses that need 24/7 payments going in and out, this is actually a serious problem. Another thing is that APIs need to comply and provide proper security and comply with, strong customer authentication as well, not just, let's say, basic authentication that many API implementations actually have. You have like a token and you can just make a payment and that's it. It's okay. It's good if they at least whitelist your IP, then it's another layer of protection. But what we built a very secure API with having two separate etcd keys, validating DNS records, validating IP addresses coming in and out. And we have multiple steps involved in the API. And you would think, okay, so this API is seriously complicated. Nobody's going to implement it quickly or even implement it easily or something like that. And to some extent, it's true because the quality of the developers, it's not always on the level that they are, comfortable with their custom things, which are not, what they saw before. But we also found the opposite. For example, we have a client who implemented everything and transferred all their payments to our platform within a single day. I mean, we set up environment for them. They do development and start running next day. One day to do everything. So they had a problem. The operator failed to provide their services. They were offline for a few days. And since we already had a contact with them, they contacted us. We said, okay, so let's do it. So we can support your, development quickly. And they did everything in a single day. So it's not like a complicated API means that it's a block. No, it's a question of will. If you want to spend a little bit of time to understand it and implement it, it's absolutely doable in one day. And once it's done, it's super secure, super reliable. And then it was built naturally in a way that can actually support things like verification of PE automatically. We didn't have to change anything important in our API to have this new thing that's actually mandatory for everyone. And now look at the businesses. For someone who's doing batch payments or APIs, they have no feedback. They just have a post and the response. And this is it. So they have to find ways to explain the regulation in a different way, explain everything to auditors. No, but our APIs are very simple, and they build in a way that where verification of PE fits naturally.
Talking about the API still, but I want to blend it with the AI because you mentioned sometimes people will not have the skill set needed to build on top of that. Do you imagine with the API and AI, LLMs and all this, that we can, change the whole way of how these business payments, like B2B payments, are handled? Because, first I can get an AI to build for me the module on top of the API. Second, maybe even better, I'm not sure if I'm talking something very futuristic, but convert this into kind of a chatbot. So for example, hey, this is the API, you have to use, of course, you have to give still the tokens and everything, of course, the security measures, but building something like, hey, go make payments to this, and it will go find what's the API function that it has to use and do it on the fly. Am I talking too much futuristic or?
Yeah, it's not futuristic. It's actually what is possible today. I wouldn't say that the AI would have to understand the API and build on top of it, particularly for payments, because it's a multi-way communication. You have to expose some endpoints to receive callbacks to, you have to make signatures. It's a question of how and what kind of tools you give to the LLM. And it's absolutely possible to give a payment tool, and the tool itself will have integration to the environment it needs to actually execute the payment. First of all, it needs to make API calls, then it needs to make responses on, let's say, validation, on signatures, and so on. And then it needs an endpoint to accept, let's say, progress, right? So how the payment is going, because it's not a real time in terms of HTTP request, where you make request and you get response. It's asynchronous because you post your order, then it's being processed, and you get callback progress reports on this. So if you give a tool, which is basically make a payment from certain band to any band, blah, 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 confirm it, And it definitely will do it easily. And you can, let's say, add this AI, make it, let's say, automatic invoice payment AI. You add a channel, for example, you receive invoices from someone, and AI can make payments automatically on, let's say, same day, last day of invoice expiration, wherever you need. And you can have pre-approved set of, let's say, where you pay automatically, because it could be a way of hacking you. And that's where actually problems will arise. Somebody will build AI to do exactly this and will not, let's say, whitelist where the payments can go. Somebody will find that there is a point email where you can just post your invoice and the money is coming. And these things will happen because if everything is built automatically, if there is no, let's say, good overview on everything from the security, logical perspective and everything, it can happen that there are mistakes. And with LLMs nowadays, that's actually the tendency, because what I found myself working here, because my personal work and life changed a lot in the past years, like wow. But what I found that LLMs are quite lazy in doing things. They skip things. They pretend to do things by placing placeholders and so on, and not implementing everything. And this is a serious issue at the moment, because AI builds, AI is a very potent thing, but it needs very good supervision and guidance during this. And this is where good developers come in, because good developer can use this tool and build excellent software like 10 times faster than he did before. But if you are just a junior who is guiding the AI to build something, you will be happy with what you get to see. And AI is very efficient in making cheap and optimal solutions, which skip the important things.
Absolutely.
Just have this as your idea. Like it's today's reality. I hope it will change. I hope it will be more thoughtful about what it is doing. But at the moment, it is probably because of the reinforced learning techniques that are used in training. It's very goal oriented. And you can achieve goal by, let's say, this is a problem, I have an exception. It can remove the exception line. There is no problem. Like this exception is not thrown. But it's not a solution, actually. You just solve the symptom. And that's the tendency of today's LLMs.
I was talking to another CTO, and he was mentioning something similar to this, and he was a little bit not happy. He wasn't happy with, because the LLM allowed what's called now vibe coding, right? And so the amount, yeah, I tried multiple vibe coding tools, like almost all of them, right? Without mentioning names, so no one get pissed off of what I'm saying. They are good. Don't get me wrong, guys. And I'm not a developer by any mean. Okay, I had like 20 years ago some courses in Python and C++, but I mean I'm not a developer by any mean. But what I noticed, to your point, and I think this is not only applies, Thomas, for coding only. Even like when you give the AI a task, it tries to it tries to be lazy. Especially, I noticed this after the LLM has been released out for a while. Now, one of my guests told me they do this on purpose because they want you to upgrade to the next level of your subscription. Someone
You never
told
know.
me, yeah, you never know. It's like only possibilities. Uh, my experience, the only, and I'm not affiliated with any company of AI companies, the only one that I didn't see degradation, although like they used to take time to release new ones, was Claude, the Anthropic LLM model. But all the rest, from Gemini to ChatGPT, I'm not mentioning the other ones. I mean, at least these are the three main ones, and maybe now Grok from X. But Claude is the most consistent one, and when it doesn't want to work, it tells you, "Hey, like you filled your limit for today or for now. Come after 4 hours." ChatGPT, on the other hand, keeps playing this with you. Yeah, okay. Like I've seen this. Let me do that. Let me do this. But you're right. Now, other than helping in coding and helping in building, what other, and you mentioned at the beginning, of course, about the optimization, what you've done in the cloud. What other use cases are you seeing which are fit for fintech specifically from AI perspective?
Mhm. I think from fintech specifically, AI eventually can replace everyone. It's far thought, like a long shot, but eventually no one is needed in a fintech, not even CEO. You can have zero
Wow.
human involved in something like financial service here. It's fully possible to automate everything from support, from ML, compliance. Compliance is absolutely way, way better than humans because it can dig into things deeply. It can create risk reports very quickly, very precise, very like it can take into account things that people simply cannot fit in minds. And I think for fintech, if you consider what fintech is actually doing, you can replace absolutely everyone, and it can be fully digital, fully automated service. It's not like I envision that we will become something like that in the near future, but it's quite a possibility. The only thing
That's
that the
bold.
regulation would not probably understand something like this because who is controlling who? So this agent is controlling that agent, and that agent is controlling them, and this is that. It's the chain. It's even from as I understand that AI and LLMs are suited perfectly to execute exactly what, let's say, supervised entity has to do, because you can supervise everything on every step. One of the things that we do AI is actually monitoring communication with our clients, and it can prevent, things that are offensive to any direction. I'm not even speaking about the translations that it does on the way,
Right.
catching context, which, people write with mistakes in slangs and so on. No translation was possible before the LLMs. With the modern LLMs, you can understand and catch the context, what was the problem and frustration of the client, and explain this to the operator. And you can catch if operator is doing something incorrect in what he shouldn't be doing, contacting the client. So, like I said, everything in fintech can be. The first things that will be changed is, of course, support, ML, and compliance. I think development enhanced,
Mm-hmm.
not replaced, but enhanced. Now, next, probably replaced. And I will have no job. That's great.
So like should founders and maybe people who are considering fintech careers be worried now?
No, there is no need to worry. It's because, it's like every time the industry revolution comes, a lot of things
Yeah,
change, right? Of course, jobs will
absolutely.
be taken, absolutely. Something new at the moment is created. For example, you have to have basically AI supervisors or AI developer or something like that. It's different kind of position emerging in the market. So we need someone who is actually able to talk to those things and explain tasks. And as it turns out, that senior developers actually is a good fit for even for not for development positions, because they had the history of explaining things to people, to juniors, to businesses, to clients, and so on. And they're very good at in talking with LLMs and convincing them to do what they want. That's why they are perfect material for any kind of AI prompt engineering jobs like related. Something else will come in the future. So there will always be something. I will just remember the horses. When the machine
Yeah.
came, everybody thought that okay, so horse industry is destroyed. So to the extent, yes, but there was machine industry, like a factory built, and there was new places for everyone to work, and horses didn't went to extinct. It's just a luxury
Right.
service now. You can ride horses and everything. So things will change. People will be a luxury in the digital world, let's say.
Yeah.
But there will be a need for them, because not everybody will want to talk to support only on AI. But I think even that will change in some time, because generations are changing, and current generation is so used to this that they will not know that it was any other way some time ago, because they get services instantly on demand, and it wasn't available before.
100%. Now, we're talking about, what have been done, in fintech. So I remember when the first wave of digital banks, sometimes called neobanks, and, came, it took the world by storm because, uh, it was really a revolution because if you think about it, just opening a banking account was, I don't know, maybe a 1 week process, collecting papers, going to the branch, waiting, and then until they send you the, the card physically and all this. And then, this digital branch or digital bank and, neobanks, you know, it's just like matter of minutes and you are up and running. You have your IBAN number, you have even your virtual card before the actual card comes and you can start to use it. So
Mm.
this is big move. So if you want to predict, and of course predict in a sense like of not 100%, but what do you think like the biggest next innovation could be in this sector?
Okay, I need to actually think.
Sure.
The biggest innovation, I predict that the biggest innovation will be the user interface, the experience that a client gets interacting with the bank. So at the moment we had branches, so you were going and talking to the teller, and then you received some documentation, signing a lot of papers, then you received the card. Then when you want something, you call, make an appointment, go. It changed a little bit. Now everything is possible online with digital identity verification methods. It will be even easier to validate your identity just in a couple of years when the AIDAS regulations come into force and everything. So I predict that front end of the digital bank will be single box. There will be no buttons, no list. It will be chat window, just like any other interface. This is probably the near highly advanced future.
Or maybe voice, right? I can just
That's next level. So once the devices, so once you get accustomed to, conversational, let's say, interfaces, right? When you are talking to your application through the chat or through the voice recording messages, it's basically the same because now voice transcribing is like optimal and it can even be done in real time. So what you speak is literally what you type, and
right.
whichever is faster for you. I saw how young people type. They type like I cannot read that fast. But once they get acquainted with the idea of conversational user interfaces, they can actually transition to the screenless interfaces. Probably it's possible that in the future the phone will be something that even has no, screen or monitor. And if you want some graphics, you will probably cast it on some projector on around you or something else, or maybe in the glasses that you have and wearing it, they can project the screen to you. But without that, the phone will be just a box that you are carrying around or something like that. And you will be just talking to it. Eventually, far ahead, if everyone gets their way, maybe thinking about it, but we are talking about sci-fi here.
I don't see it as a sci-fi anymore, from from
Yeah,
that.
you would not believe like 5 years ago or 10 years ago that there will be chat interfaces, you will talk and you will not be able to identify if it's not human responding to you, blah, blah. Yeah, things
Like
change a lot.
the first time, I noticed like it was like 2 days after they released it, start people talking about chat GPT. I said, what? Going back to a chat interface? Like, this is odd,
Yeah, it's a full cycle.
yeah, and I said, okay, hold on, let me try. And first, I thought it's a joke. I thought like someone was doing hype for nothing. I knew about OpenAI, and then I started to think, okay, what's the relation? Because these guys on their website were mentioning something else. And then anyway, the first interaction, I said, oh wow, this is next level. Um, and all my guests, they agree, on one term, like the genie is out of the box. So now really it's just our imagination. What can we do with this technology? Of course, still there are some stuff it's far, because I think it needs like more time. Some of them you mentioned also, like maybe the regulation needs to be in place so we can bring that up.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Thomas, as we are almost come to the end, as a CTO now and as someone who came like all the way to where you are today, what's your advice for fellow founders, co-founders in this space? if they are maybe just now starting, or maybe they are still, drawing things on the napkins. So what would be your word of advice to them?
Draw on the napkins. That's a good thing to organize your thoughts. I like that. The best advice. Don't start another fintech. It's a very complicated business, so don't do that. Do whatever you like and everything, but just be open to the ideas, but don't be crazy about it, but be open to the ideas that might be you don't need so many people or specialists around you to build things. You can actually build now with having an AI as an expert next to you. You can have, for example, if you would think that you need some help from someone, most likely you can just get this help from Claude or Chat or Gemini. Most likely you can get any expertise you need. You just have to learn how to ask questions. So important skill, new skill you have to have is prompt engineering and learning how to ask correct questions. It's not the question, can I do this? No, you cannot. You have to ask how I do this. What do I need to do this? What I need to for me to be enabled to do this? That's kind of questions you have to ask. Yeah, it's just the beginning, and then you dig deep and get your answers. And you have to try a lot. For example, I achieved a desired goal only on the 17th attempt. So 70 attempts went by. And the last one was like for some reason, it was like inspirational. The AI came out with the thing I needed.
Wow.
For I don't even know exactly why. Maybe the request went to some experimental LLM underneath or something like that. But it was stubborn on not achieving what I needed. But on the 17th attempt, it was like inspired and it created something you want. So also don't give up, okay, on anything you do. Because there is the only way to lose. You either win or you learn. You lose only when you give up.
Love this. You lose only when you give up. Absolutely. And I think, just as a small remark on what you said, I think this is also because LLMs they are programmed, right? So they are programs, and they are programmed in the same way as us humans.
Not really. Not really.
Yeah, but sometimes I've seen this myself. Like, I ask the same question. Not within the same chat, by the way. I open a new prompt, and I ask, the same. I tweak, my prompt a little bit. Actually, I vibe coded, and this is for myself. It's not like for just a prompt enhancer or optimizer. So, and since I stopped using it, I'm getting results pretty much good. But anyway, so Thomas, where people can get in touch if they want to learn. Maybe get in touch. Maybe of course they want to know about myTU. So where they can find you and read any article that you might post.
Yeah, thank you, Mehmet. So the best way to contact me is probably LinkedIn. I respond on LinkedIn messages, specifically if it's I don't know, industry fellows or something like that. And they want to chat, I will chat. Or this is it. LinkedIn is the only and the best channel to contact me.
Great. So I will make sure that the profile link is in the show notes. So if people want to reach out to Thomas, I really enjoyed the conversation. Like
yeah, me too. Thank you.
Eye opener, I would say for tech leaders and even people who are interested in fintech in general, and the AI, fraud prevention, security, cloud optimization, and all the topics that we discussed today. So really thank you for the time today. And this is how I end my episode. This is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. If you enjoyed it, give me a favor, subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming again and again, thank you very much for your support and for your efforts making the podcast trending in multiple countries at the same time. This cannot happen without your support. And as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button. Share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.